YouTube and Twitch. Your boy Danny Golding TV in the house. It is playoff time as the Niners got the Green Bay Packers tomorrow night for the divisional round. Let's get this started. Man, does it feel good? Because of course the Niners, being the number one seed, had that much needed first round bye, had that much needed rest, and now. And of course, the road to Vegas, hopefully, if they're lucky enough to get there, will go through Santa Clara. And the Niners, most of the starters got about 21 days worth of rest, and they're all going to be refreshed and ready for tomorrow night. And I have a special guest with me that's going to join me right now, formerly known as 49er Wildcat and calls himself Bandwagoner 2011. And speaking of 2011, he's got the thumbnail profile picture of Jim Harbaugh, of course. And with Jim Harbaugh winning his first national championship in the NCAA, and with all these rumors about him going back to the NFL, how perfect. And of course, being able to relive this Niners-Packers rivalry with the Harbaugh days. Let's give a warm welcome, the first guest ever here on Danny Golding TV live stream, the artist formerly known as 49er Wildcat. Let's all welcome Bandwagoner 2011. Welcome on in.
Hi, Danny. It's been a long time. There's a lot of people who watch this very likely don't remember who I was, but I did used to make some videos back in the day. It was a very mixed bag experience. And looking back now, I probably shouldn't have done YouTube so soon. But now that I've gotten old, I mean, I'm literally almost 24 years old, and I really would say that I would thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with not just the viewers, but also express myself freely on this podcast because when I first joined YouTube in 2014, the 49ers were coming off of a very solid playoff run in 2013. As you remember, speaking of the Packers, we beat Green Bay in the wild card game. If you remember, it was a cold, dark, it was like a cold night in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. It was when Colin Kaepernick was quarterback.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. I actually put together, and I'm gonna a little highlight reel of all the, not all of the times, but all of the recent times where these two teams have played each other in the playoffs that I'm going to actually play here in a little bit. And that game was, of course, one of them. That was, of course, in the 2013 season in January of 2014. It was actually, I actually looked back on kind of a TTC Hate Week video that I did of that. That was in about, it was like the second or third day of 2014 as well. So about almost like pretty much exactly a decade ago.
You know, one of the things that, looking back at that 2013 season, I sort of look back with regret, with some pain, because we did not know at that time that would be the last year of Jim Harbaugh being there. And we had no idea what sort of infighting was going on between him and the owner, Jed York. And, to this day, I still think firing Jim Harbaugh was a huge mistake for this team. Yeah. Now, I have nothing against Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a good coach. But I don't know, man. There's just something about Jim Harbaugh that I feel like the current present-day Niners would really like. I feel like this team would really do well with him right now, just as well as they're doing right now with Kyle Shanahan.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even if Kyle Shanahan versus Jim Harbaugh. It's more just how it all ended, Harbaugh, and how basically Jed York and Trent Baalke at the time basically just set this franchise up for a few years of failure, thinking, okay, well, we'll be able to get some high draft picks and we'll be able to rebuild, but it's going to take a few years. So we're going to, obviously they wouldn't have publicly, they tried to make it sound like it was the best move for the franchise. It was a mutual parting of ways, all that bullshit.
It was not. It was not.
Right.
And the thing is, it took Jed some time to realize around like 2016 or so, around like the late time when the Niners were losing all the football games, when he finally realized, oh my God, what the hell have I done? I sided with the guy who literally doesn't know what he's doing rather than the guy who actually knew his stuff about football. And by the time he fired Balky, some would say it's too little too late. You've already lost our respect. But if there's anything he has done very well since then, because I remember after Kelly was fired along with Balky, I remember the former NBC Sports like beat writer, Ray Rotto. One of the things he said, and I'll never forget, was that what he would recommend Jed to do is find the GM, get the head coach, and then after that, get out of the way. Don't team, don't just sign the checks, and hopefully everything works out in the end. Just good owners don't touch the football team. They don't. Unless you want to be someone like Jerry Jones, who constantly meddles with team affairs. Like, it's just the owner running everything just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It's proven time and time again that whenever the owner has more control over the football team than letting his own front office do the work, it's a complete disaster, a complete clusterfuck.
Right. Well,
we saw this happen with Green Bay. We saw this happen with Indianapolis. We
happening
saw
with
this
Dallas.
happen
It
with.
still is happening currently with Dallas.
Oh wait, no, I apologize to Green Bay. They have no ownership issues because the Packers, I think, in the United States and maybe the whole goddamn world, I think they're the only sports franchise that is actually owned by the fans. The fans.
Yeah, no,
And that is
I actually forgot all about that. That's and I'm not exactly familiar with how all of that works. I mean, it's owned by people in Green Bay that have been like for
basically
about like
every
70 plus years, right? If I remember
basically
correctly.
every citizen in Green Bay has a piece of the Packers, like in their stock profile, and that's pretty. That's quite impressive, honestly. The fact that this team has been able to do so well without an actual full-blown owner, but rather instead depending on the public to fund the team and to keep keep the lights on or something, that's impressive. The Packers are like, there's a reason why so many people love the Green Bay Packers, and it's mainly because they're clearly a fans first team over corporate money. That's impressive. But yeah, so I remember the 2013 run. Again, looking back, it's bittersweet. I forgot how great of a playoff run that was. The defense was playing so well during that time. The offense was kind of shaky because I feel like when you really look back at it now, I feel like Cap was starting to fall apart a little bit. He was clearly not what he was the previous year in 2012. I remember all of this too damn well. And that's the big difference between this Niners team under Shanahan and the Niners team under Harbaugh. We actually have a fucking quarterback that can throw accurately and throw it to open receivers. We don't have any of this dual threat, overrated bullshit. We actually now have an old school traditional drop back passing quarterback, which is what most of the league has.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
even
it took years for the Niners to finally find their franchise quarterback, and it took
years. It
them.
took them like since I don't know the early 2000s since
Yeah,
Jeff
since
Garcia.
you're right, since Jeff Garcia, and it's ironic because everyone thought that it was going to be Trey Lance, and it was very
Nope.
close, but it ended up being their last overall pick. 2 years after they drafted, or excuse me, a year after they drafted Trey Lance.
Look, we
In a
got to be
year,
honest here
in a year where they
about Trey.
anticipated Trey Lance to be their starter. I mean, Trey definitely is nowhere near as good as Purdy, but I still think he can be a good quarterback in this league. It's just the Niners are a team that's
No,
ready to win
no.
now, and then it's
You
less.
see, the problem with Trey, if you really look back at it all, I feel like that was clearly a John Lynch pick and not a Kyle Shanahan pick. I felt like there was a strong disagreement between the two guys in what they wanted to do with the quarterback position. Now, either way, Jimmy was going. He was going bye-bye. That didn't really matter. But what the big question, though, was who was going to take his place. And I felt like Kyle wanted Mac Jones. And we all now know what Mac Jones is looking like right now. He does not look good. He looks, after like that one solid rookie year, he now suddenly looks like he's a total bust. I mean, that entire 2021 quarterback class has just been an absolute disaster. Like, almost nobody from that class has been good,
I
at
remember
least
at first
consistently.
people like when Mac Jones looked good his first year in New England, people thought, oh, maybe John Lynch and Kyle should have gone with that pick after all. And then,
No, but thing is, the only reason why, I don't know, I felt like defenses didn't really figure him out yet, or maybe, I don't know, it was the way that play calls were being done, but also Mac Jones was not a Tom Brady. You see, I felt like there were more expectations being put on Mac Jones than they were on Tom Brady when he came to the league, when we were young children. Like, I was literally a toddler in my crib when Tom Brady was just coming out of college. I mean, thing is that I felt like there was much more weight on his shoulders than there was on Tom Brady's shoulders. I mean, you literally had to fill in the shoes of the greatest quarterback of all time. That is like almost an impossible task to really like fulfill. Honestly, it's impossible to fill in Tom Brady's shoes. I mean, he won 6 Super Bowls. He won like how many? Like 8 like 9 AFC championships, like conference championships. Like, how can you top that?
yeah,
Like,
I
how
believe
in God's
Tom
name
Brady, I
can you
believe,
top
actually
that?
has 7 rings.
No, but like
Actually,
that one reigns from Tampa. The one reigns from
oh,
Tampa.
okay, you're
He
talking
won
about his
6.
rings in New England. Okay, I got you. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, so like I think he went 6-3. So yeah, in New England. So he won 9 conference championships in total with New England. So yeah, it was going to be impossible for anyone to fill in their shoes, and that's why I think going to next year, I heard they even announced the new coach. You know, I was kind of shocked that they selected the guy so quickly and they didn't even go on a further search. And, you know, if I were Jim Harbaugh right now, I would just stay in Michigan because Michigan, there's like nothing wrong with it. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
right. No, I mean, I think it's likely that's is what he will do, but I think that more part of him, his brother, of course, has the Super Bowl ring against him. Nonetheless, that he part of that motivates him
I
to actually
mean,
want to stay and or excuse me to actually go into the NFL again, at least
I
as a shot.
don't, you
So
know what? When you look at the list of teams right now, National Football League, who need a coach badly, I honestly think if I'm Harbaugh, I would just not bother going back because literally almost all of the ownerships of these teams without a coach, they're incompetent. They cannot be trustworthy. I mean, Chargers are looking for a coach right now. I think Atlanta's looking for a coach.
yeah,
I
Atlanta
mean, it's just
interviewed Bill Belichick. As a matter of fact, what were your thoughts on? Did you hear about that?
yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I think I honestly feel like Bill is cooked without Tom Brady. I don't think he's going to really win anything again. Now, if I were him, if he really wants to coach in National Football League again and maybe garner some victories, I would pull a troll move and go to LA. Play like do the Chargers. Like
We'd
I
like
would
to
go.
welcome our good friend Keeping the Faith, also known as JD. And here he says, "Can't sleep, going to Levi's tomorrow. Bang, bang, Niner gang."
Oh,
Yes,
go to Great America. You know,
absolutely.
I never call that stadium down there. I never call it Levi's. I always call it Great America because it's like right next to the theme park, and I don't like the name Levi's. I never understand why they went with that name, but it is what it is, and I just call it Great America.
Hey, well, it's
But
better
yeah,
than a corporate name that people expected it to be called when they were building it or before
everyone
it
thought it was gonna be
opened
the
it.
Googleplex. Everybody
Yeah,
thought it
like
was
it's
gonna
better than
be.
that. So, I think in fact George Kittle, as a matter of fact, does one of the commercials that you hear from during the Niner radio broadcast
Yeah.
for Levi. It basically talks about how he grew up with Levi. He grew up wearing Levi's, and it's Levi's is a historic service. So I do in fact like I don't mind. Great America
I mean, I
is
wear Levi's myself.
yeah no it's yeah I do too occasionally and yep.
It's a nice tribute to the city. I felt like that was what they were sort of going there before because they never really wanted to truly leave that behind. And, you know, I'll admit, though, come playoff time, I mean, it largely depends on the weather. There are some times when I feel like the atmosphere does remind me a bit of Candlestick, especially when it's like overcast, cloudy, sort of like rainy. I remember the playoff games, I think in 2019, I think, against Green Bay. That was in the NFC Championship game. That one reminded me of a game at Candlestick, and so did the game last year against Seattle. Those reminded me of some Candlestick games, just by the simple fact that it was all cloudy, rainy, overcast, like climate. I mean, That's what real playoff football is like in the Bay Area. It's supposed to be under some pretty questionable conditions. It shouldn't be nice and clear. No, it should be sort of rough. It's what I call football weather. Oh, yeah, really? Candlestick weather. But yeah, Annie, so I wanted to ask you, just now, sort of getting back on topic here, because we're talking about this football game. So
actually, my went out
yeah.
for a second respond to your before we move on, I want to respond to point there real quickly. Yeah, that and today is actually the 4-year anniversary of that game that was played on January 19th, 2020.
Oh my God. You know where I was? You're not going to believe this. I actually have a funny short story where I was when I was watching that football game. Believe it or not, I was not in the United States when I was watching that game. I was actually in the Philippines visiting family overseas. I remember getting up at like God knows like 6:30 or so a.m. in the morning. Well, it was like 3:30 here in the Bay. And me and my half brother were like, "Oh, we cannot miss this game. We got to be early birds, get up like as soon as possible." And I remember my brother was having some trouble setting up the game because, well, obviously American football isn't aired in the Philippines. And
You gotta watch
we
it on the
decided
streams,
to,
right?
yeah, we got to set up a pirate stream.
Yeah.
And fortunately, by that point, technology had caught up and illegal streams were now very common on the internet. And I was able to get something up and we hooked up the laptop to the television and we watched the football game.
Yeah, when I was in
And
Venice a couple months ago, I used this the TV app.to for people watching. You can watch any game on that. It's sometimes not always the best quality, but it has like the perfect feed. And I know since it's Europe, those games were at about 2 in the morning when the Niners actually weren't playing that week, so I didn't like stay up to really watch that many games. I think I actually watched one of the Eagles Cowboys games actually.
I recalled after that game was over. Yeah, I just simply turned it off. I didn't go back to bed. I was like, oh, I got to see what happens with Baltimore in Tennessee. And oh boy, we were in for a big surprise that night.
Yeah, and it's definitely better like to get up at 6 in the morning to watch it rather than have to stay up till 2. You know, that's definitely a better time. But so yeah, that game. Well, with that being the first playoff night game, that definitely had a lot of the candlestick atmosphere. And JD, one of something he says on there, the 2019 versus Minnesota in the playoffs was candlestick rather foggy and cold. So that I was actually at that game. Of course, you would remember JD, I met you for the first time at that game. And it's only the second game I'd ever gone to at Levi's Stadium itself. The first game I went to was a night game in the 2018 season, Monday night game against the Giants with Nick Mullins as quarterback. So that was a night game, and the weather was a little chilly because it was in November. So, but that Minnesota game, I remember as it got later, it did get a little cooler because it's January weather. But during the day, because I was deep in the nosebleeds, I got to experience what they noted as the heat, the Levi's heat, a little bit because you're right in the sun. But I remember I was using my sweatshirt to block the heat, so it wasn't obviously that hot with it being in January. The weather was cool, but that was so I was at the first ever playoff game at Levi's Stadium.
Yeah, that was the first ever. That was the first one ever, and I just remember being electrified, even though I was abroad, because after like 6 years of total suffering with some 2 shitty head coaches and an incompetent general manager who I honestly think sounds like he was dying of lung cancer or something. We were finally back in the postseason. It felt really good. And man, it also bring me back memories of when Jimmy was there, Jimmy G. And, I recall he didn't really have that great of a game, but the running game I remember was excellent. I think it was mostly Raheem Mostert or
Mostert. Yeah, he had the 4 touchdowns in that game 4 years ago. And so in the Minnesota game the week before that I was at, Jimmy G didn't like he wasn't terrible in that game. He threw a pick, and then it basically like he did have a touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne in that game, but he also, when he started to struggle, Kyle just pretty much called nothing but running plays for most of the rest of the game after he threw that one pick.
I mean, to his credit, it worked because
Right.
it would turn out to be mostly a blowout. But, I felt like after that ACL tear in 2018, he was never really the same after that. Never the same. And it's very unfortunate because I remember watching the 2019 season. I thought he looked okay, or at least average. But
Yeah,
I knew
he
for a
had
fact
some
in the
good.
long term, yeah,
He was mostly average
yeah.
for most of the year, but there were a couple games. One of them I was at here in Arizona. The Halloween game in Arizona, he looked. That was probably his best start so far at that point. And
Many
then
could
later on, yeah,
argue.
and then later on the
Many could
Saints
argue.
game,
Yeah.
the 48-46 showdown, he looked really good in that game. But then for the most part, he
Mhm.
was just average, and then
Jimmy
even as the
Garoppolo
years
low
goes
key
on, he
reminded
regressed
me.
even more, kind of like Kaepernick did
Yeah.
before, and then the Niners just had to go into another direction. But Kyle Shanahan's
It
system
reminded
being as
me
good
of.
as it was, they were still able to
Yeah.
make deep playoff runs even when he wasn't the best quarterback. Although he looked, I would say before he got injured last season, before Purdy took over, he actually looked his best since 2017. I would say up until he got hurt
That's
last year.
interesting. Interesting take.
Yeah,
But Jimmy, to me, my biggest problem with him was that he was not very accurate. He couldn't throw the deep ball for shit.
yeah,
He
right.
was, and the thing is, people could make the same argument, but well, Tom Brady didn't throw deep balls too, and I'm like, hello, that's like apples and oranges. You cannot really compare them. And also, you got to understand, he was also a game manager too, and Shanahan knew this. And
Mhm.
it sort of reminded me a bit of Alex Smith during the 2011 and 2012 seasons when Harbaugh was the coach. He reminded me
Yeah,
of Alex a bit, but the difference between Jimmy and Alex was that I don't know. I felt like you could trust Alex more with the football than Jimmy. But the reason why I felt like Jimmy went as far as he did in with us is very simple. He had a great supporting cast around him. Imagine having Fred Warner, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. Imagine having Debo Samuel. Imagine having CMC. I mean, imagine having all these guys, all these weapons. Like literally, there's a reason why they were able to go as far as they were able to because they had a great front office who drafted the right people. I mean, he was destined to go places. It's just the problem was he himself was holding the team back. And I felt like that showed in the 2021 NFC Championship game against LA, which that one, of all the NFC Championship game losses, if I had to compare, the ones that really make me mad the most were the Giants one, where Kyle Williams fumbled. Yeah, that was not a good memory. And then the
Oof.
LA one. The LA one, that made me just as mad too because Tart dropped the interception. And then you had Jimmy throwing one of the worst passes I think I've ever seen, ever watching in the
Yes,
National
I
Football League.
was there in LA for that as well. I actually have a kind of a funny story real quick on how my friend and I were able to get into that game. We were because at the time I was between the two jobs that I've had at that point, so my friend and I were just gonna go at least go to LA if we weren't gonna be able to go and try to watch the game outside. But I posted, I was like, does anyone have a way we could just watch the game outside? And so I was like, oh, I have a hookup. I'm friends with the security guard and we just pay him, and then for all the Niners Rams games it's usually $100. We just get standing room only. We just go in that section. I was like, okay, but it's gonna be $300. So we we give this person $300 in cash, and then he just tells us like when you go through the after you go through the middle section, just keep going, just don't look at your phone or anything, just keep going. We did that, and then it worked, and we just were able to get in and just have standing room only.
I heard SoFi is a
Not seats,
really
but
is a great stadium.
it
It's a
was
great
awesome. It
stadium.
was the best because I had went to Allegiant Stadium for the preseason, and Allegiant Stadium was good, but I like SoFi Stadium way better just because it's in. Think about it. Allegiant Stadium was literally $1 billion stadium, and I still thought SoFi was the better stadium. And not only that, I got to see the Chainsmokers perform at halftime for that game.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a real shame that the season ended at that point in
Oh, it did.
2021. And at the
Jimmy could have
same
won,
time,
possibly won a Super Bowl. Who knows?
you know what I think would have happened had they won that game? I mean, I think it's quite obvious. I think they would have beaten Cincinnati just like we did in the 80s. They definitely would have beaten them. I mean, either way, I don't think Cincinnati was winning that Super Bowl. Rather be LA, rather be SF. They weren't winning that game. And let's also be honest here. 2019, in retrospective, I know some people may disagree with me on this, but I feel like the NFC that year was very, very weak. Because if you remember, Green Bay was 13-3 that year, same with San Francisco. But everybody else in the NFC that year didn't look so great. They looked either weak, mid. Nobody was really getting past the Niners that season. Not even Green Bay. Even Green Bay didn't look that good. And also, not to mention, I have to talk about also this year, like fast forward to 2023. This really reminded me of 2019 so far because the conference looks really
especially
weak.
how it started out. It looked like they were going to start out 8-0 again, although they just went, of course, just went 5-0. Of course, and then
I mean, you know what? It's better to lose. It's better to lose early on.
Like having that 3-game losing streak at the time where they did was way more beneficial than if they. Because I feel like 2019 maybe they peaked a little too early then.
No, it's not that. It's like the thing about 2019 was that the NFC as a whole, the conference was very weak, and 2023 it could be said the same. The reason why that is because if you recall, 49ers whooped both Dallas and Philadelphia's butts very easily, like almost without any issues. It just showed you how weak this conference was. Philadelphia, literally, we all know the first round, okay? Now, I care about the playoffs. I really do. I think they're fun. But look, we got to be honest here. The wild card round is for getting rid of teams that can't play. And we now know who can't play. And surprisingly, it's teams that people thought were going to go farther than they actually did. Dallas and Philadelphia. Man, I got to be honest.
How great it is to be able to laugh at both those NFC East teams that the Niner fan base especially has been beefing more so the Dallas fans for years, only in the last couple years with Philly fans. But how awesome is that to just be able to laugh at both of them in one super wild card weekend? Like,
we got to be honest here. The 2023 Philadelphia Eagles proved one thing: that last year's team was a fluke. A fluke. Because now that we saw, I remember when the game happened between us and Philadelphia.
Yeah. When Brock Purdy was healthy, Niners pretty much broke the Eagles. And I believe I even heard, this may not be true. I don't have confirmation on this, but I believe Jason Kelce actually
he said in the locker room.
Yeah, he actually said that in the locker room. Okay, yeah, I wish I should have downloaded a clip of that so I could have played because
I wanted to mention,
Eagles were 1-6 after that game.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention though, okay, Philadelphia, last year, as you know, they whooped the 49ers. But looking back now, that was only because Brock Purdy got hurt.
Yep.
Now, and then going to that football game, a lot of fans had on their mind, okay, same weather, same stadium, like similar, if not almost the same teams, same coaches, like same everything. But now we're going to find out for sure if that NFC Championship game last year was for real or not. And then we saw Brock Purdy play, a healthy Brock Purdy play. And what do you know? He destroyed Philadelphia. So it proved one thing that
at first, of course, them
last year was a fluke. It was a fluke
in the first quarter, and maybe it looked like, oh, maybe Philly is the better team. But before that game, now Philly was 10-1 going into that game, and most of their wins were just hanging by a thread, and they were within like a couple scores, and they were games that really easily could have. There were like 3 games they had where they blew out the other team, but most of the games they played, they were just hanging by a thread. The Niners just got it going in the second quarter on, but they were pretty. It looked like they were just on the right track for the fact that they hadn't given up a touchdown in that first quarter yet, and then it just.
But looking back now, it was clearly Shanahan toying with them. It was clearly him toying with them, and they wanted to see just how tough this Eagles team was. Because before that, if you remember the Week 6 game between Philadelphia and the Jets, there were some major red flags with this Eagles team. Major red flags. And what do you know? Going to and once the Niners actually got to play them, a real football team play them, it just Wasn't close. It was a blowout. They got technical knocked out. It was like a complete clusterfuck. I remember watching that game and I couldn't believe it myself. I was like, are you kidding me? Our two biggest rivals in the conference this season were basically mid? Really? And, then comes Super Wildcard Weekend, which was last week. It was the real wake-up call for most people, because usually it's one thing when you do something in the regular season, but when you get to the playoffs, it's a whole different story. The playoffs is like nothing like regular season. Sure, you can make a turnover here and there, but it's all right. But then once you go into the playoffs, you cannot make a mistake. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course,
one mistake kills your team.
Cowboys first, losing 48-32 to the Packers, and that's a game where, of course, obviously, I'm hating the Cowboys almost more than any other team. I wanted and because the Packers are more importantly, the Packers being the lower seed, then obviously, and the Niners already having the record they did in this past decade against them in the postseason. Obviously, you want to face. That's the team that you're most desiring to face. But I expected the Cowboys to win that game. They had not lost the game at home up to that point. It seems like after we destroyed them, they were bounced back and looked pretty damn good. They were
we gotta be honest here about
and
Dallas.
They're the first number I believe it's the first number 2 seed in history to lose to a number 7 seed.
We gotta be honest here about Dallas, okay? First of all, don't let their stats, don't let their record, like season records between 21 and 23 fool you. They are not a good football team. They are at best an average football team. Because all the teams that they have faced in the playoffs were all better than them. Especially even a supposedly mediocre Green Bay Packers team. The fact is, Dallas has always taken on teams that can't play. Teams that were literally the bottom of the barrel in the National Football League. But once they took on real teams, like playoff teams, they struggle. Why is that? Is it because they may not be as good as they claim they are?
Yeah, and a lot of Cowboy fans are down on Dak, and obviously a lot of them wanted McCarthy fired, and McCarthy is going to be back next season.
Oh, man. Let's be honest here. And then, in the words of the great Charles Barkley, they're cooked. Well done. It's over.
Yeah.
Dallas is cooked. They will never, until Jerry Jones relinquishes his role as general manager, and until McCarthy goes, they're cooked. They're not going to ever return to the NFC Championship game. If anything, we're going to make like a gazillion appearances in the NFC Championship game before they can get back. And besides,
they have not been
Super Bowl.
My 27th birthday was 2 days ago. The Cowboys have not made it to the NFC Championship game in my lifetime still.
Wow, it's been that long. 1995 was the last time.
Yep.
Man, they got it down bad. I mean, the thing is, I sort of feel bad for the Cowgirls fans simply because, I mean, it's been a very long time. But at the same time, though, like, none of this really surprises me because this is Jerry Jones who we're talking about here. He's probably one of the most control freak owners in all of sports. I mean, he will, of course, give you stability. Of course, he may get you some wins in regular season, but he's not going to do well in the playoffs.
Right. Wildcat, I'm going to cut you off just for a second because we have a new guest in the joining the stream, SG Sports Talk channel, who I've seen in Damon Bruce's chat on the Plus before and who has been in my last couple of streams. He joins us. Welcome on into the stream, SG. How's it going?
Oh, hello,
hey, what's up, Danny Golding TV? How's your day going?
It's been going, man. It's been good. Worked for about 9 hours today, and
hey, what's your thoughts on the Packers and Niners game? You think it's going to be pretty close?
So my prediction is going to be maybe 31-24 Niners, and
that's very generous. That's very generous to Green Bay.
How many yards do you think Purdy's going to throw for?
I could see them not. I could see them just running it down their throat and not really relying on the pass game too much. If Kyle does call a lot of passes with him because he does trust him, I could see him throwing for at least like 170 yards, something like that.
I mean, if they do more passing, I think it's going to be 300 plus.
But like you have to look at the Green Bay Packers. You can't sleep on them because they have two great running backs. They have Aaron Jones and Jair Alexander. So
yeah, Aaron Jones actually scored 3 touchdowns in Dallas last week, and Aaron Jones actually won me $75 last week because I placed a bet on DraftKings that Aaron Jones would be the first player to score a touchdown to place a $10 bet. I won $75 off that. I was like, hell yeah! I was like at work listening. I was like, let's go, Aaron Jones, be the first Packer to score, please. And sure enough, he was. So shout out to Aaron Jones on DraftKings for that. With Eric Armstead being back, that's definitely going to benefit the Niners' run defense because I feel like both these teams are going to run around each other a lot. You're going to see Matt LaFleur calling a lot of running plays with Aaron Jones, and of course Kyle calling a lot of running plays with CMC, and hopefully they get Elijah Mitchell in there. But having a CMC as rested as he is the Packers should.
Hey, bandwagoner 2011. How many sacks do you think Nick Bosa is going to have against Green Bay?
Oh, that's a tough one between friggin' him and Chase Young. Maybe he might get a couple, maybe 3. I don't know. I definitely think Nick Bosa is going to have a decent game. But then again, though, Green Bay has their O-line's been playing very well, allowing Aaron Jones to run as far as he can. I mean, like, yeah.
Hey, Danny Golden TV. If Jordan Love balls down in this game against San Francisco, how many yards do you think he's going to throw for?
Hold on, Daddy's having some issues, technical issues.
Danny Golden TV, my question to you is that if Jordan Love balls out in this game, how many yards do you think he's going to throw against San Francisco?
Daddy's having technical issues. But I mean, for me personally, though, I think he's going to throw maybe 200 plus yards. I don't.
How would you rate Jordan Love as an NFL quarterback?
Oh, as for me, I think he's for someone so young, I think he's 7 out of 10 so far. He can scramble, he can throw deep. I don't think he's as great as Aaron Rodgers, though. That's a hard feat to beat, honestly.
Hey, bandwagoner 2011. How many receiving yards do you think Ayuk's gonna have against Green Bay?
100 plus, maybe.
Sorry about that, guys. My connection went out, and I actually was worried it was going to end the whole stream, but it did not, thankfully.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on in your end.
Yes.
But hey, Danny Golden TV, my question to you is before your internet connection, when I was saying that if Jordan Love balls out in this game, how many yards do you think he's going to throw against San Francisco?
See, that's hard to predict. I think he throw for like he threw for at least 200 yards last week in Dallas, right? I think I was looking at the stats of that game earlier. Let's see. Actually, yeah, I have him up right now. Yeah, he threw for 272 yards. I could say he could throw for at least 200 yards if it's a back and forth game. But in that case, Purdy would also throw for 200 yards in that case. So it kind of depends on that. And Kyle would call the game differently if Jordan Love started to ball out. But my main key is for the Niners to score first. Because when Green Bay went up 27-0 a little before the end of the first half, it reminded me a lot of the NFC Championship game 4 years ago today where the Niners just whipped on the Packers. That reminded me of that game a lot as it being a playoff game that was just completely out of reach so early in on it. So I would say the Niners have to score first. Yeah, what's up?
When I heard about Amy Trask, who was the former CEO of the Oakland Raiders,
yes, I was going to get into that.
She said that Brock Purdy is the worst quarterback of all time, I disagree with that comment. I actually don't agree with that.
Get out of here. They were probably saying the same shit about Tom Brady during the early phase of his career.
Amy Trask, I believe I don't think she obviously did not say that. What she said was it we have 7 terrific Okay, I gotta count actually how many. Let's see. So we got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud,
Mahomie.
Yeah, Mahomes. So yes, he said we have 5 terrific quarterbacks in Brock Purdy. Well, don't forget, Jared Goff. So yeah, so it's it was 5 terrific quarterbacks in Brock Purdy.
I think the worst quarterback left in the playoffs is Baker Mayfield.
And Baker Mayfield. So yeah, you have 6 terrific quarterbacks and Brock Purdy. And obviously, Baker Mayfield is the one. So a statement that said you have 6 terrific quarterbacks and Baker Mayfield would be 100% accurate. And Amy Trask, now for those of you who don't know, Amy Trask is a former executive for the Raiders that made this comment, actually. So if she said that there's 6 terrific quarterbacks in this left and Baker Mayfield, that comment would make 100% sense. And then she retracted her statement and tried to say that, Purdy's still good, but he's not terrific. Now, the whole narrative of him being a game manager, it's an interesting one, because that whole narrative basically says that if you have weapons, then it takes away from how much of a good quarterback you are, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. Because obviously, if you put Purdy,
if he's a good game manager,
if
he's a game manager, why the hell did he throw over 4,000 yards, 31 touchdown passes, 11 picks only, with a 113.0 rating? Not to mention the fact he now has a Pro Bowl under his resume, and he literally got the team to 2 consecutive playoff appearances. Does that make him a game manager?
And besides, he can throw the deep ball. Is that good?
No, he threw the deep ball. He can throw the deep ball. His passes are accurate. I mean, he's probably best 49 quarterback we've had maybe since Garcia, if not Steve Young.
Or even since Steve Young. And actually, Brock Purdy actually sat down for an interview. I would recommend both of you guys and anyone watching check that out. It was a really good interview. And Purdy basically at the end talking about how he grew up. I mean, he grew up in Arizona just like I pretty much did, but he obviously the 49er logo, what he thinks of is Joe Montana and Steve Young. So the fact that he already broke a lot of Steve Young's record this early in his career, how crazy is that?
He now has many records under his belt. If you look on his Wikipedia page, it's just amazing. For a guy that's supposed to be Mr. Irrelevant, that's just unbelievable. He's already the greatest Mr. Irrelevant of all time.
You read my mind, Wildcat, because I was literally about to say that.
Danny Golding, what 49er jersey are you rocking on the stream?
You see it better now? Sorry, hold on. Let me.
Is it Brock Purdy?
It sure is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Purdy is.
Not only that, I was actually gonna. So tomorrow night, I'm going to Tempe to go to the Snyder Bar that I've gone to for a lot of years. I've only gone to it for a couple times this year, but before that, I was gonna maybe stop by Brock Purdy's dad's hot tub before in the daytime to see if it was open. I've been meaning to check that out since they featured it during the Sunday night game against the Cowboys. I've been meaning to. I haven't been able to go there. It's usually closed on game day, but honestly, maybe it's open in the beginning of the day. Maybe I could actually try to get a hot tub because the Arizona winters are pretty underrated. Don't sleep on them. So that's what I have planned for tomorrow.
You know what I think will cement Brock Purdy as pretty much an all-time Mr. Irrelevant, making him the GOAT of all Mr. Irrelevants. I mean, I know that it's going to be a little low standard, at least for me, but I'm a very generous guy. But considering how many heartbreaks this team has had over the years, all he has to really do is win the NFC Championship game, and he's already the best Mr. Irrelevant of all time.
Well, he's already, regardless, the best Mr. Irrelevant of all time. But
I mean, I don't know why, but I always wanted just to at least see us win the NFC Championship game, and whatever happens, I always view this season as a success. But still, it doesn't mean I don't want to see the team win the Super Bowl. I, of course, want to see them win because I haven't seen one ever be won in my lifetime. I've never seen the 49ers win a Super Bowl and having that parade on Market Street. I mean, I've seen the Giants.
Yep.
I've seen the
the Giants win 3, Warriors win 4.
I've seen them all on Market Street, but not the 49ers.
Yeah. Well, most of the Warriors parades were actually at Lake Mary. Well, one of them was in San Francisco. The other.
Hey, Danny Golding.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Patrick Willis being named the finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class in 2024?
Well deserved. Absolutely well deserved.
Patrick Willis is arguably one of the best to ever played in his position. It sucks
that his career ended. I understand why, but it sucks that his career ended as when it did, because he could have been even more dominant. And the Niners lost Willis the same week they lost Frank Gore, and shortly after the same week that Jim Harbaugh, they lost Jim Harbaugh too. So I made a video back then. You can find it if you go deep in the archives of my channel. I call that the worst week in 49ers history.
That whole time was a disaster for that football team. Like we couldn't recover from that thing for like 4 or 5 years, and it was very traumatizing to watch. It was like you were watching your childhood die. You were watching a good friend like die.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even like a peaceful death. I mean, look, when you look at the way the Saints dynasty ended, it was more of a peaceful death, if anything, because in the end, Bochy just left the team. And then you saw each of the players also leave, like piece by piece, all like falling apart. That dynasty came to a close, in my opinion, in the most peaceful way possible. And then you have the Golden State Warriors. I would say the dynasty is unraveling in the most painful way possible. But
right now,
hey, at least they got a lot of it. They got a lot out of it, though. But the way that whole reign of the Niners ended, that one was it was painful. And imagine what could have happened if Patrick Willis and Bowman stayed fully healthy, and if Jed did not throw a tantrum over Jim Harbaugh, calling him a boy over being referred to as a man. I don't know. Harbaugh has a really he's a control freak, but he always has good intentions for the football team.
Yes. Now
Danny Golding.
Yeah, what's up?
I was so heartbroken when I heard that Brent Brennan, who was the coach of the Spartans of San Jose State, he left the program and went to Arizona.
Oh, really?
About that, because I wasn't expecting you would leave, because our program was really good, but then we were breaking down. We were losing like a lot of games. We just lost the bowl game against Coastal Carolina, so our program was not really going in the right direction. So I think I agree that he left for Arizona. I mean, I didn't really disagree with it, because Arizona needs a head coach, and their program needs to get better.
I just look back at that whole situation, 2014-15, with absolute disgust on how that was handled. But
no, exactly. Yeah, that was one of the worst coaches of the decisions. I mean, so at this point, Kyle Shanahan has taken over for Jim Harbaugh as the best coach in my lifetime. But still, like I said earlier, like the Niners basically, like Trent Baalke, of course, at the time, and Jed York basically decided, okay, this franchise is going to suck for a few years, but we can be dominant 5 years down the road, is what it felt like.
The thing is, the big difference between Jim and Kyle is very simple, at least what my eyes are telling me. I felt like Harbaugh's team was more physical, and this was before more of these questionable rules started to be integrated into the National Football League. If you recall, the NFL was a little more rougher back then, but then people started getting more concerned about player safety and all the concussions happening. And then all of a sudden you see all these rules like come out of nowhere that have just been impacting the game. I felt like the Harbaugh Niners on the defensive side of the football was very rougher, but it's not to take away from the Shanahan Niners. But if I had to pick a team between either the Shanahan or the Harbaugh Niners, I'm taking the Shanahan Niners. I felt like this team is more complete. They have better, superior wide receivers. I mean, if you remember, man, like during like the Super Bowl in 2012, we didn't really have a lot of good receivers. I mean, yeah, you had maybe a cooked Randy Moss, and then you had a average, mediocre Michael Crabtree.
I loved Michael Crabtree back then, but he definitely was not.
Oh man, let me tell you,
you definitely would not think of him as a top receiver. I love Crabtree. Was actually the first Niners jersey I ever got when I was 12, and then he, of course, held out after I got the jersey.
What's hilarious?
Really pissed me off
What's hilarious
then. But
now?
I ended up loving Crabtree overall, but just the fact, and honestly, Wildcat, the dumbest thing that the that Harbaugh did do as a coach is not give the ball to Frank Gore at the end of that Super Bowl at the goal line. That's basically
yeah. And that's another thing is that the football team in 2014, when it was becoming clear that the offense was struggling, they should have done what John Harbaugh done, which Jim couldn't do, and that was fire Greg Roman. Had they fired Greg Roman at that time, at that moment, after the Thanksgiving game against Seattle, I think the season would have been saved. And they probably would have made another playoff run. But we'll never know what would have happened. But they didn't listen. And
there were a lot of people that said that Harbaugh was pretty much out regardless of what happened that year. I've even heard someone say if they won the Super Bowl, Harbaugh would still be out. So I don't know what to believe. Like
we'll never know. We'll never know now. It's all
a bandwagon or 2011. What are your top 5 greatest San Francisco 49ers moments of all time?
Whew, that's a tough one because there were a lot of great moments, honestly.
Well, I'll give you some time to think about that, actually. So, and while I do that, I was actually going to play this thing that I put together. It's the highlights between the Niners and the Packers, not of all time because they played a few times in the 90s and mostly beat us with Brett Favre. But in
Favre looks inside, hits Freeman.
Yes. But this is a mix of great Niners Packers playoff moments. Take a look. Oh, you fucking.
Oh no, it's that game. Jerry Rice fumbled. That's all the Packer fans. That's what all the Packer fans all say about that football game. They all say Jerry Rice fumbled the football. He fumbled. And this was a year before they brought back instant replay into the league. If anything, I heard this game actually was the reason why they brought back the challenges. Because Jerry Rice obviously fumbled. I'm sorry. He fumbled. But hey, we still won the football game and finally beat Brett Favre. So that's good enough for me. But still, I mean, but this game also was nowhere as important as the previous one in 1997. I think of all the Niners-Packers playoff games that were in the 90s, the most important one was obviously the 1997 NFC Championship game.
Hey, Danny Golding, my favorite 49er moment of all time was the catch.
Which catch?
When,
1, 2, or
Joe
3?
Montana threw the touchdown pass to Dwight Clark.
Well, that would be my favorite.
That was like my favorite moment. Like I'm always gonna remember that moment forever.
It's obviously the greatest moment. Nothing can top the catch 1. Nothing. Because
absolutely. I was actually about to ask. I don't know how old you are, SG. So did you see that moment live, or do you just mean like in general your favorite moment?
No, I just watched. I didn't see the moment live, but I just watched the highlights of it on I just searched it online.
The greatest Niner moment for me in my lifetime.
Would be. You are right. That is the best moment of all time, though. Go ahead, Wild.
The greatest Niner moment for me, at least in my lifetime. I know a lot of people are gonna say I'm young and all, but it's the catch 3. And you know why? Because it was the very first time I got to experience the Niners' greatness.
Yeah, it is. I would agree with that. And okay, so I just want to make sure it works. So this is what I tried to play before my internet went out for a second.
Man rush, and Young stumbles on the way back and fires up the middle. Pass is caught by Owens.
Let's go!
Owens made the catch.
Let's go!
This is amazing.
84, back in the end zone.
Second down and 4.
I love this play right here. This is a masterpiece.
Colin Kaepernick. What a game. Touchdown.
Let's go. Fresh set it down to the 28. Vernon Davis held in check. No more. Touchdown.
Good job by Kaepernick.
That was a good throw by Cap.
Yeah, and they could just ice it.
And that's what the 49ers did. They let it run all the way down to 3 seconds. Jim Harbaugh still, again, wearing khakis as Phil Dawson boots the 49ers through to the divisional round and to Carolina.
George Kittle at the bottom. Somehow the handoff into the arms of Mostert. He's gone. Touchdown. San Francisco. They're running a trap with the right guard, Mike Person. He comes across. They get Staley up at the next level, the left tackle, and there is a canyon for Raheem Mostert. Mostert in the backfield. He gets it. Samuel out in front. Touchdown. Toss to Mostert. Cuts back. Rumbles down inside the 35. High snap. Handoff for the first down and more. Mostert. Handoff is to Mostert. They cannot stop the run. Second down and 9. Here he is again. Mostert touchdown, his third.
Joe Staley and Laken Tomlinson and the push that they get. And then you've got Bourne, the wide receiver, 84. He's out there.
Straight up.
He's blocking the edge as well.
Only thrown 6 passes. Mostert, left side. Another first down carry and more. How about a touchdown? 5 sacks for this defense in each of the last 3 games, and it's blocked. Up into the air and spinning inside the 10. Picked up and a touchdown. Hufanga got the return for the touchdown. Kick was down the middle and good. 49ers win it.
Oh man, that brought back a lot of great memories.
I know, right? Yeah.
Man, here's the thing. My favorite one though was obviously the 2019 NFC Championship game because, I mean, that was the most important one of them all. It was the most important one, and the fact that we just killed them, we just knocked them out.
Hey, bandwagoner 201. What's your score prediction for the Packers and Niners game?
I won't be as generous as Danny. 38-24. San Francisco.
Danny, what's your score prediction for the? Danny, I have the same question for you. What's your score prediction for the Niners and Packers game?
So, yeah, I'm gonna go 31-24, or I have a feeling the Niners are gonna at least score 30 points. They're just like they did in their first 5 games. They're gonna put a 30 burger on the Packers, but I don't want to sleep on the Packers because of how well they played last week and how Aaron Jones kind of had almost. It looked like he was gonna have a Raheem Mostert game last week. So obviously, I expect Aaron Jones to probably score a couple touchdowns.
If 49ers,
Jordan Love and
here's the thing.
Yeah, and of course Jordan Love in his first playoff run is going to be fired up also. And
oh yeah, I'm sure he's fired up about this game because I mean this is an opportunity because he's going to try to do what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do.
Exactly.
And, in the playoffs.
And the Packers are definitely spoiled to have 3 franchise quarterbacks in a row with Brett Favre and Rodgers and then Jordan Love. And Jordan Love did not look that good when he first started. In his first few starts, but then
because he was still in development.
You're right. Yeah. He developed pretty quickly though, overall.
I wouldn't say quickly. It took him like 2-3 years to get him ready to take Rodgers' place. I mean, the fact it took him long.
First, because of course Rodgers still being the starter, give him as much time.
Rodgers to me is going to go down as one of the most wasted careers in the history of the National Football League.
At least he has a Super Bowl ring.
That's true. It's like Favre, but still, it's a mostly wasted career. But Rodgers is definitely one of the old-time greats, but I don't think he's the old-time GOAT, though. That's
Hey,
bandwagoner
201. What are your 5 keys to victory if the 49ers want to beat the Green Bay Packers?
Number 1, they have to stop Aaron Jones. That's the most important thing, honestly. Second of all, they have to keep Jordan Love off the field. I mean, they have to keep the Packers offense off the field. It was like the NFC Championship game in 2019, honestly. Don't let the offensive Green Bay get back on the field because we all know how good of an offensive coach Matt LaFleur is. Then the third key of the game, run CMC a lot. You got to run CMC a lot.
Yeah, and CMC, the rest that he has, he's not going to be fatigued. He's not going to be overused at all. Kyle can pretty much just use him as much as he wants, and he has a good chance of.
You have
Mitchell too, and you might see. Yeah, you might see them use Mitchell a little bit, and I would like that a lot. Hey, you could even use Jordan Mason, but Since CMC
also,
has
keep an eye on.
all this rest, he's going to be so fresh. And
yeah, you'll have CMC, you'll have Mitchell, you'll have Debo, and you'll have Mason. I mean, they have a lot of options at running. And also keep in mind, because how well CMC has been playing along with Mason, this could be Elijah Mitchell's final playoff run with the 49ers. So don't be shocked by that, because they don't use Mitchell as much anymore, though I wish that really wasn't the case. But it's looking likely he's going to go the way of Raheem Mostert and Wilson soon.
True, but I could possibly see them maybe getting rid of Jordan Mason and keeping Mitchell too. But I mean, for Mitchell's sake,
Mitchell can't help you. Mitchell can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
he can't stay healthy.
Well, and he can. Another team is definitely going to want to pay him some money because of what because he has a decent resume too.
He's definitely, if he goes to another team, they're definitely going to make him a starter. I'm absolutely certain he's going to be the number one guy. But of course, he has to go to a team that's actually going to use him properly. And, I also think the other keys to the game are, because I already named the three things, Purdy also has to play very well. You got to have Brock Purdy play like his best football, because if there was a time to play at your best, this is the time to do it. The playoffs, not just in the divisional, but the NFC Championship game and Super Bowl 58. Like, this is the time to push yourself to the limit as a player. And Purdy has a real chance to really cement himself, not just in Niner history, but in all of the history of the National Football League. And then the fifth and final key to this game for the Niners winning, honestly, just don't turn the ball over. Don't turn it over. Don't fumble. Don't throw any picks. Nothing.
It's
Danny, if Purdy, then you can almost say that they win the game automatically, and because the games where they've lost, Purdy has thrown a pick, but Purdy's capable of throwing even just one pick and still winning the game too, if that were to have to be the case. The only game of where Amy's trash statement would make any sense would be the Ravens game on Christmas.
Well,
of
here's
course.
The
and
thing.
Like I said earlier, you had 6 terrific quarterbacks or you had 5 terrific quarterbacks and Baker Mayfield, then that would make more sense. But to say you have 6 terrific quarterbacks and
I should
Brock
say
Purdy,
about the AFC right now. I want to talk a bit about the AFC. Honestly,
I predict all the other games too, which we'll do in a few minutes. Also,
we're gonna be honest here. I'm gonna be very honest here. The AFC looks very scary right now. They got a lot of good teams coming out of there. A lot. The one that scares me the most is Baltimore. If 49ers take on Baltimore again, oh my God, I'll be shit scared, honestly. Baltimore.
Well, it could potentially be 2 of the Super Bowl rematches, because a Ravens Super Bowl rematch, or it could be a Niners Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. I heard a lot of people are
betting. A lot of people are betting on the 49ers rematching either Kansas City or Baltimore. But if I had to pick a team who I want to face in Super Bowl 58, I'm going Kansas City, because Kansas City this year just looks so weak. There's a lot of problems with them, yet they're somehow playing just okay football. But I
have a feeling that the Bills might beat the Chiefs this week. Sorry, I should have actually done that when I was predicting all the games. But I'm gonna let's finish this right now. So go ahead.
I'm also going with the 49ers are going to get up against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
That would make sense, because
prediction, my kind of hot take prediction will be Niners Bills in Vegas.
Ooh, that's okay. That is a different animal. I think that one's winnable, but then again, the thing is, Buffalo this year, they really remind me of us years ago in 2021. Everybody wrote them off during middle of the season. Everyone thought, oh, they're so mid now. Oh, they're so terrible. But then all of a sudden they climb back. They start winning games again. And now they're in divisional round of the playoffs. So no matter what happens, Buffalo is still going to be contending. I'm very impressed by Buffalo, but I don't know if they're going to beat Kansas City. But between them and Kansas City, I think Buffalo is the better team. In my opinion, they are the better football team. But Kansas City's defense, though, holy shit. They are so scary, but nowhere as scary as Baltimore. I think Baltimore is the most intimidating team in the AFC.
A bandwagoner 201. Who do you think is going to be the NFC MVP for the 49ers, and who do you think is going to be the Super Bowl MVP for the 49ers?
That's a very difficult one, but I got to say...
we're not quite there. We're not quite there yet, but
we're not. It's too early to say because we're
don't
not
wanna
even past
jinx
the
anything
divisional
either,
weekend.
SG.
We're not even at divisional weekend.
No,
we're not even
we
at
have
the
to
end of
get
this weekend yet.
past the divisional round and the NFC Championship game in the first. The Niners are blessed to have that first round by 1 seed.
We haven't had a first round bye since 2019.
Right, yeah, and 2019 was, of course, last year we actually went to the Super Bowl. But how beneficial was it to have that first round bye back then, too? Because if the Niners would have lost that Week 17 game to the Seahawks, then they would have been the number 5 seed and would have had to go into Philly.
And then
I
we would have
believe,
been on
and
the
then
road. We would have
they
been.
may not have
We would
been
have
able
been
to make it to the Super Bowl that year. So having the first
I
round
think
bye is a blessing.
I
But
mean, if you really
my
look
prediction
back
will
at
be the
it,
Niners will be in the NFC for the Super Bowl. I think they have the best chance to win their first Super Bowl since the 94-95 season this year. But I don't want to get ahead of
that's
myself and
fair.
predict who the Super Bowl MVP was, because that's
I
going
mean,
way
here's the
ahead of
thing.
where we need to be.
Here's the thing. If 49ers make it to the NFC Championship game again, I will get obviously nervous because for some reason in my lifetime, this team just loves to go to the NFC Championship game and choke. It's just, I don't know if it's some habit for them or something or like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, keeping the faith, or JD said below in the chat, 49ers are undefeated at Levi's in the playoffs, at least so far, but I hope that ain't a jinx.
Yeah,
because
let's keep it going. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like 49ers have a greater road this time around, just like 2019, because they're going to always be at home. We're at both divisional and the conference championship game. And the teams that they would have to face are not going to be as good as the teams that they faced in previous years. Now, to be honest, if you compare the NFC of 2021 and 2023, for instance, it's not even a debate. Because if you remember 2 years ago, you had Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers at the peak, like literally the best Packers team in a very long time, probably since that 2011 team that went 15-1 and they choked against the New York Giants. You had them. You had Tom Brady, who was still doing very well. He was like literally taking one last big breath before he would start getting cooked the following year. Then you had the LA Rams. And then you had Dallas that year. Then you also had, I'm trying to think. But yeah, you had a really strong NFC last year, that year. But now the NFC 2 years later, it's so weak now. All that talent is gone. They've all either retired.
The Niners have
cooked.
only have one AFC win this season, Week 1 against the Steelers. They've lost some of the other AFC North teams. Not that means anything, because they can hopefully, and I definitely think they can beat whoever their AFC opponent is in February. But still, that's just an interesting fact.
If it's Kansas City, I think they got a pretty good chance of beating them. But if it's Baltimore, that's a little tougher one because we already saw what happened.
Well, yeah,
Baltimore.
And plus, the Niners, who they were on Christmas, they're not a team you can sleep on. I could see the Niners Baltimore Super Bowl being an absolute showdown, though. It's not going to be a blowout on Christmas, and it's not going to start off like a blowout like the last Super Bowl against the Ravens.
I kind of disagreed that it was a blowout.
Shootout.
Just because it was 33-19 doesn't mean it was a blowout, because if you recall, Darnold almost got to the end zone, and it could have been 33-26, but he threw that interception.
Well, it was more just the momentum, because you never expected them to come back in that one. That was pretty much over.
Yeah, they were never coming back, but the score I felt like was deceiving some people, because I always felt like Baltimore had like I felt like the Niners defense was really trying their hardest to deal with Baltimore, but every time Purdy got like picked off or something, it would always be in Niner territory, like at their own, like in their own field goal range, and Baltimore would always take advantage of it. So you cannot really fault the Niners defense there. It was more of an offensive problem that night. I mean, yeah, I watched that game. It was it was bad, but it is what it is. We lost to a simply better football team. And I would say of all the teams right now in the National Football League, I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL. Second is the 49ers. Now, do I obviously think that just because I say they're the best team right now, does that mean they're going to win the Super Bowl? No. Anything can change. And besides, if you also know the history, Lamar Jackson does not have a very good record in the playoffs. That's another thing to point out.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
great in regular season, but he's not great in the playoffs.
Yeah, so
and they got to face off
against tomorrow. We have the matchups that we have tomorrow. Of course, we have the Texans and the Ravens playing tomorrow.
Woo!
That's gonna be the afternoon game. 1:30 Pacific time, 2:30 my time. That's a game where I expected Ravens to win, but I would not be shocked if somehow Houston has bought the upset. Of course, CJ Stroud is coming off a big
Look,
win last week and in an incredible season for him. Big win
Danny,
last week against the Browns.
Danny, can you believe we're in 2024 and the guys playing now are either our age, if not a little younger?
I know that
CJ Stroud is younger
crazy,
than us.
Yeah,
old.
Purdy's almost 3 years younger than me, so that's.
He's literally our generation. We could literally
Gen Z, baby. Let's Gen Z taking over the NFL.
Yeah, now the millennials are now starting slowly to retire, and the Zoomers are now taking over. So yeah, so Gen Z is now finally taking control. I knew we were taking control as early as 2021. I think Trey Lance was the first ever 2000s kid to ever.
Yeah, I was wondering about that actually. Yeah, because especially like me being 97, seeing someone just born in 2000 makes you just think they're technically born in a different month than you. So I definitely have given that thought. I think he might actually be the first QB born after in the 21st or after the 1900s.
No, he's the very first National Football League player to be born in 2000 to be drafted.
I know Zion for the NBA was the first one.
Zion Williamson, can he ever stay healthy? If not, like lose weight? Also, but getting back on top though, Baltimore versus Houston. I don't know why, but I smell an upset. And the reason why is very simple. CJ Stroud, he absolutely clobbered Cleveland last week. And Cleveland is supposed to have like one of the best defenses in the National Football League. But yet, they got they got murdered. They got slaughtered against Houston. And Stroud is like, he played an excellent game. And not to mention Houston's defense under DeMeco Ryans. And that's our thing. DeMeco Ryans, the fact that he was able to succeed in his very first year, not just having a franchise quarterback, but the fact that he won the division and the fact he won the very first home playoff game. In my opinion, he's coach of the year, no doubt. In fact, he got it all done within a year or so. And with CJ Stroud. And, I felt like Stroud, when he drafted him, I felt like he learned a bit from Shanahan. He was like, all right, I'm not going to make the same mistake with this kid. I'm going to go all in with Stroud day one. And it worked. But it also doesn't help that Stroud played more college ball than Trey Lance. And that's another reason why I think he failed in the NFL so far. Lance didn't play enough college ball, but Stroud, though, did. And Stroud also played against tough teams in college. And Stroud is also actually, I feel like he's like the first Ohio State quarterback that I would say was truly NFL ready. The others just weren't even close. Justin Field, I felt like was rushed into the fire. Same with Troy Smith. Same with Deshaun Hopkins.
Dude,
I think.
Troy Smith, that was a big throwback. I actually was a fan of Troy Smith when I thought he was.
Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, the late Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Yeah, I kind of lost track when you talked about Troy Smith. That was a big callback to 2010.
I mean, it took Ohio State long enough. It took Ohio State long enough. They had so many quarterbacks go to the NFL, but they all failed. And Stroud's like the very first one that actually did quite well. It's obviously early in his career but my honest opinion is for all of what he's done this year, his stats, not to mention all the wins he's garnered, the home playoff win in his rookie year, 10-7 record. Give the guy rookie of the year. I know it's going to be close between him and Nakoa, but if I had to pick, it's CJ Stroud because he literally got everything done within the span of 1 year. A team that was fresh off the rebuild. That's impressive.
So I'm going to predict the Texans will pull off the upset.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 20.
Yeah, me too.
28-24. 2024 Houston upset.
I'm going with the Houston Texans winning over the Baltimore Ravens. I got them winning by a score of 35-32 on a game-winning field goal by Kaimi Fairbairn.
I like that prediction. Actually, I do like that prediction. I'm still gonna go with the Ravens in that, but I'm gonna go in a close game. Let's say because I didn't necessarily anticipate to predict the scores in this game too, but why not? I'll say 28-21 Ravens.
Baltimore. Okay, that's understandable because Yeah, Stroud might have a good game, but
that would
oh
that
man,
upset would
against
not shock me
Baltimore,
though.
that's
It
gonna be
would.
difficult.
You know, it's the NFL. The playoffs.
I mean,
any team could be any team in this playoffs. The Buccaneers could win the fucking Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield. Not that it will happen, but that means anything could happen. It's the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, I want to just talk a bit about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a moment, because this is
we
the
will
next game we're going to talk about.
We'll get into that in a second. I just want to say, so we got, of course, that Steelers game, then the night game, the game that we all mostly care about, of course, the Niners and the Packers will be tomorrow night, 5:15 Pacific time, my time, in a very, very rainy show. Well, it's not. It won't be as rainy as if this game would have been on Sunday, because there's supposed to be even more rain in the Bay Area, but there's at least going to be 75% of the Bay Area covered in rain, but maybe not necessarily during game time and during Santa Clara, but there will be some rain in it. I forget
Martinez lately has been getting soaked lately, so it's been I'm all for it, honestly, because it's good for the crops. I can see the green.
Right, yeah, oh, exactly. Always good. But of course, that is good. That's also going to limit the passing yards for both Purdy and Love, actually.
So they gotta run the ball. They gotta run it.
Right,
they gotta run it.
Hey, bandwagoner 2011. I'm going with CJ Stroud throwing for 400 yards tomorrow, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Woo! That's a wow. Sheesh. That is. Oh my god. If that happened, Baltimore's is going to lose the football game. In my opinion, they're going to lose if Stroud plays that well. It's over. They're cooked. But yeah, I want to talk a bit about Tampa and just how, because everybody saw Green Bay
tomorrow, or excuse me, Sunday's early game will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. Of course, the Lions winning their first playoff game since January 5th, 1992, last week.
Oh my god, that is
first
ancient
ever
history.
game at Ford Field. Yeah,
not even Matthew Stafford could win a playoff game. Not even Matthew Stafford could play a playoff game.
Well, Matthew Stafford was involved in the playoff win, at least.
I mean, but here's the thing. My opinion on Detroit versus Tampa. First of all, I want to congratulate the Lions fans, because they have endured
one of my
so much.
Friends is a big Lions fan. I'm planning to watch the NFC Championship game with if they were to play the Niners.
These people in Michigan deserve better. They deserve better, and I'm glad they're finally getting a real football team, because for way too long, they've had to endure all this bullshit. They got so many bad GMs, they got a bad ownership that doesn't care about the football team, the Ford family. I mean, their cars are great and all, but they cannot run a team. They can't run one. For shit. They just can't. But now that they finally found a man that can properly coach them, and now that they're finally putting the pieces together, I think Detroit is going to be a force to be reckoned with over the next decade or so under this current core.
A bandwagoner 2011. Tomorrow, I would really love to see CJ Stroud light a fire under Lamar Jackson's ass tomorrow.
That'd be great. I mean, I would love that. But yeah, getting back though to Detroit versus Tampa, I was very impressed by what Detroit was able to do. But man, I was breathing a major sigh of relief, because LA, I felt like, was getting hot at the right time. Because as you know, LA was actually doing quite well during the final stretch of the year, and they even got that one victory against the Niners during the last week of the season, though it was a meaningless game. But I was getting concerned. Because LA had been playing quite well as of late, and I was like, oh man, these guys again. But then what do you know? Detroit manages to squeak one out by 1 point against LA, and it was probably the only game of Wild Card Weekend. Every other game was terrible. Outright garbage. I mean, Green Bay, Dallas. I mean, yeah, Dallas added up some points at the near end, but it felt more like a blowout at the end. And then you had freaking Buffalo versus who do they? Oh yeah, Pittsburgh. That game wasn't that good either. Then you had Kansas City versus Miami. Miami wasn't really there for the most part.
Yeah, the Lions-Rams game was definitely the best game we had of Super Wildcard Weekend.
That's the thing. This was probably the worst Wildcard Weekend. It felt like this Wildcard Weekend felt like filler and not like canonical material. It just proved like Chuck Barkley's point about the first round of the playoffs. It's for getting rid of the teams that literally can't play. And
I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it. But hey, the Green Bay Dallas game was probably my favorite game, of course, for selfish reasons, but also because it was really, it was an upset. So see an upset happen.
I was like, yeah, I was stunned by just how well Green Bay performed in that game. But you know what? I even knew before that game, I was like, oh man, I got a bad feeling about this one. I just knew deep down in my gut we were going to see an upset special. And we did. But I didn't expect it to be that bad of an upset.
A bandwagoner chooser 1-1 tomorrow. I'm gonna wear all black suit with the cowboy hat, and I'm gonna watch the Houston Texans take down the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh yeah, please do. It would help us not have to deal with Baltimore in Vegas if we even get to Vegas. Because of all the teams in the AFC, Danny, the one, as I said earlier, the one that really worries me the most is Baltimore. Because Baltimore, I feel like Baltimore is like the most complete team in the AFC.
Any NFC team that would expect them to go to the Super Bowl would fear, or fans of the AFC teams would probably fear the most would be Baltimore. Yes,
Baltimore is literally. I don't know how John Harbaugh does it. There's a reason why I felt like there's ongoing debates of who's better, him or Jim. And if I had to pick one of them, I feel like John is the more intimidating one.
Well, he has the ring, and
yeah.
Jim does, and
he literally won with Joe.
I believe he's I don't know. Is Mike Tomlin or him the longest tenured head coach?
I think it's Tomlin that's been
okay. Yeah. It should. Well, so I believe since 2007 it was with John Harbaugh, and maybe before that. Okay,
but seriously, John Harbaugh is without question one of the most intimidating. I think he's one of the best defensive coaches in the football league, and I have no doubt in my mind that if he were to go to another Super Bowl again, he's definitely going to make life hard for the 49ers like he did in Super Bowl 47. There's just no doubt. I can definitely see it. It's going to be a lot tougher match, but if it's 49ers versus Kansas City again, I can definitely see us winning that one. But
who do you think Jim Harbaugh would root for in a Niners-Ravens Super Bowl?
Oh, is it obvious? I think he's going to root for Baltimore. He's going to root for Baltimore. And the reason is,
assume so, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he wants. Maybe he'll root.
He literally had a huge falling out with Jed York, and I honestly don't know if they ever recovered and reconciled that relationship ever since then.
That is true, but
it's been so long now.
I was more thinking,
but I
looking better. He would want to have more success than his brother, and that's why he'd root against his brother.
But also, another thing is I just want to say before I get back to the topic of Lions, Eagles, and then we get to that other big playoff game. Oh wait, no, not Eagles. The Bucks and I forgot the Eagles are gone.
Yeah,
I forgot they're gone now. That's right. They went one and done. They got cooked. But seriously,
I was actually going to talk about how the got the win against the Eagles 32.
Oh, I want to say about Tampa Bay.
The Bucks would win that game. I didn't expect them.
I smelled an upset. I smelled an upset, just like the Dallas Green Bay game. I smelled an upset in that one too. The problem
that's one where I definitely do not see an upset. I definitely see the Lions winning that one.
Both Dallas and Philadelphia were overrated, and they deserve to lose. Arrogant teams.
Baker Mayfield is like the only quarterback remaining that's not terrific.
Baker Mayfield is, I think he's going to put up a decent game against Detroit. In fact, if they pull off the upset against Detroit, which here's the thing. Of all the playoff games, I think the one that's like the toss-ups, it's Chiefs-Bills, but also Lions-Buccaneers. Those are the toss-ups for me. Because I feel like Tampa has some advantages over Detroit, like in defense, and
Baker
also the fact that
throws last week. Once he got it good, but he missed. I feel like they should have blown out the Eagles even when they should have put on the Eagles.
And also, I want to mention that this is another thing I got to say. How impressive can you be about Tampa Bay this year? Because they went from literally Tom Brady being there. Everyone thought they were cooked once Brady left. And then people had little to no expectations for them once they had on board like Baker Mayfield. And then they make another playoff run again. That is really impressive. They literally have now made a playoff appearance without Tom Brady. It's just, I cannot help but be proud of them. But I hope we whoop their ass if we have to.
Yeah.
And then you got Kansas City versus Buffalo.
Yes.
That one's going to be close.
Kansas City and Buffalo. That is tomorrow night's game in this division. Then that'll conclude this divisional. But how weird is this to have Monday night games? Like, thank God, Monday night game this week. I mean, I get the idea because obviously he had Monday Night Football for most of the week. Sorry, my mic keeps going in and out for some reason.
I honestly think that Buffalo has the I feel like Buffalo has the capability of beating Kansas City this season. They have the capability to do it. It's just a matter of the coaching, honestly. Can they not screw up? Because this is the weakest Kansas City has ever looked in years. Probably since like maybe 2017 or so.
Well, this will be the first time that Patrick Mahomes will be playing on the road on the.
Oh, that is right.
A bandwagoner 2011. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning 30-24 on a game-winning touchdown by Chris Godwin.
Ooh, that's a very good upset right there. I can definitely see Tampa Bay upsetting Detroit. I mean, it's Detroit, so they have a history of choking. But at the same time, I feel like Detroit's not really there yet. I mean, they're getting there, but I don't think they're really all the way there yet. And I honestly think the NFC overall is going to be dominated by the 49ers for the next. I feel like the 49ers window with Brock Purdy at quarterback, if he's healthy completely, the window is 10 years. It's like Kansas City and Mahomes. It's going to be a 10-year window with Purdy if he's healthy. I mean, don't you agree, Danny? Like, do you feel like now that they finally found their franchise quarterback, how long do you think is the window?
Mic settings, but yes, absolutely. This is a 10-year could be a 10-year window with Purdy. I expect him to even get better since he's.
I mean, it's going to come down also the contract issues, of course, with the other players.
The fastest possible.
I mean, you also don't forget to mention that Purdy is only 24 years old. He's very young.
Yeah,
he's not just 25 yet. Yeah. And besides, and also NFL quarterback life expectancies are a lot longer now than they used to be. Though not everyone agrees. I mean,
I don't necessarily think that Purdy will be this dominant for 10 years. I think that he'll probably have a few years of look incredible and then maybe regress a little bit. But even when he regresses, he'll definitely still be a top quarterback in this league.
Montana's window,
you never even know. Who knows? He could. The fact
Montana's
that even Jerry Rice compared him to Joe Montana. Like, obviously, there were people out of their minds already comparing him to Joe Montana after his first few starts. I'm like, okay, let's not go there. He's not there yet. But
Montana, look, here's the Montana's window, to be fair, was 9 years. So they actually are making a point there. But that's the thing with me is that if you keep Purdy healthy and continue to have a good supporting cast around him, the championship window for the San Francisco 49ers in this era is 10 years. And as long as Jed doesn't touch the football team, as long as he doesn't touch it, as long as he keeps it to the brightest
the fact that he gets along fine with Shanahan and
Lynch,
and he's pretty much letting Shanahan run the show. I think the problem was Harbaugh wanted to completely run the show, and Jed was like, because maybe if they had that Super Bowl ring in the 2012-13 season, then Jed could have completely just let Harbaugh completely run the show. I mean, he would have had no choice.
It's going to go down as one of the greatest what ifs. It's going to go down as one of the greatest what ifs in the team's history.
Well, at least for those couple years after. I mean, not for and then a whole 5 years after, of course, but for at least
no, it doesn't matter. Like, it will go down as a great what if. Like, what would have happened if Jed York sided with Jim Harbaugh over Balky? That's going to go down as a great what if in the team's history. Because I think had they made Harbaugh the complete, because that's what happened with Bill Walsh too. He completely controlled the team, both general manager and the head coaching. I feel like if they allowed
bandwagoner
Harbaugh to control
2011,
they would have won a lot.
A bandwagoner 2011.
I can hear you.
Would I make a good color commentator for the San Francisco 49ers?
Huh?
Would I make a good color commentator who assists the play-by-play announcer?
Well, I think Tim Ryan's pretty good at doing it right now.
I think they're good right now, in my opinion. They're excellent. I mean, I don't honestly miss the old commentators before 2019, to be honest. I don't miss them.
Well,
I remember.
Yeah, I do like Ted Robinson also, but I think Greg Papa is one of the best announcers of all time.
We stole him from the Raiders.
Oh, yeah. The Raiders were dumb enough to fire him because of his So his opinions with Mark
the Vegas
Davis,
move. Also the Vegas move.
The fact that he was close with his dad, and before Al died, Greg Papa was very, because I'm a regular listener to Greg Papa's radio show on KMBR also. So and before when he's on 95.7 The Game with Lund.
I also
his
remember
relationship
when
with
he was on
with Al
Comcast
Davis,
Sportsnet.
and the fact that Al Davis told him before he died that he would never hire Mike Shanahan under any circumstances. And it's nothing against Greg Papa likes Mike Shanahan, of course, as a head coach in general, but he did not. He spoke out highly against the Raiders hiring him just because of his relationship with Al Davis. Of course, Mark Davis, Al Davis's son, had much different opinion on that, and that's what basically led. At least he would say probably led to what happened there. So of course, yeah, Greg Papa took a year off, and then
Danny,
then he ends up being the play-by-play announcer for that. And of course, as you're talking about color commentator, Tim Ryan, I think is a good color commentator. But what was
Danny, how long
what was the
have you
exact
been-
question again? Was it anything related to that and what we're talking about, or was it just kind of?
Danny, how long have you been a 49er fan?
Since I was 10 years old when I started watching.
2011.
Yeah,
2011
for me, 2007.
Yo,
for me.
A lot of people used to take a dump on me because I've been a fan only when the team got good under Harbaugh. And
I mean, you're
come
3
on,
years
people.
younger than me, so I mean, I would accept. Did you actually have you seen the Niners like before 2011? Did you follow them at all, or was that like your first year actually watching them?
No. It was my first. The Niners were not only my first like team in the NFL, but they were my first team in all of sports. Because once I became a Niner fan, I became a Giants fan, I became a Warriors fan, I became a Stanford fan. I mean, yeah, that's where my sports journey began. It was 2011. And I don't want to hear, because back then, if you were like in 2014, the people, the opposing team fans, they would definitely call you a bandwagon if you're like in my position back then. But since I've been behind this team now for more than like 13 years, or almost 13, I think it's still 12 technically, mathematically. But
about 12.
But
12
now that I've seen them both at their worst and at their best, does that make me a real fan now?
Of course, it does. You can be the original bandwagoner from 2011 that became a true fan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I would say I'm part of that new generation of 49er fans, the young guard, as I would like to call myself, or the Harbaugh guard.
Yeah, and I said since we're pretty close in age too, I'm about in that same generation too. I'm actually the first month of Gen Z. If I was born a month earlier, I would be a millennial, but I'm Gen Z, being born.
You were born
97.
You were born in the season. You were born in the season where they had to deal with Brett Favre like multiple times. Very big shame. Very big shame.
And the highlight that I played earlier, of course, the catch 2, as they call it, Steve Young to Terrell Owens. That was in January of '99, so about a little bit before my second birthday. Actually, is when that.
It's a huge shame that they couldn't. I mean, once they got the pack out of the way, a lot of people thought, well, maybe they could actually make it to the Super Bowl now that they're out of the way. But you know what? Looking back now at it, if you look at that 1998 NFC that year, I don't think they were going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. You know why?
I apparently hired Steve Mariucci the day I was born. Actually,
no, but like Danny,
article that I have of that.
You want to know why I don't think they would have made it to the Super Bowl either way in '98? You know why? First of all, the Falcons were 14-2 that year. They were an excellent football team.
And they were still in the NFC West, right?
But then this is the killer here. Even if you got past Atlanta, then you have to go up against, oh my God. They're arguably the second greatest team in the history of the NFL that never won the Super Bowl. The 1998 Minnesota Vikings.
A bandwagoner, if they recreated the catch in 2024, who would be the quarterback and who would be the wide receiver?
Obviously.
Sorry, let me answer that question first. I'm going to say Brock Purdy to Brandon Ayuk. Or actually, maybe even George Kittle, actually, because with it being Vernon Davis and being George Kittle, I'll say maybe it might be I could see it being a tight end again. So because Vernon Davis is the catch 3, so I'll say Brock Purdy to George Kittle.
Yeah, that's the same with me. Purdy to Kittle. That would be the catch 4, but I don't know if we'll even see a catch 4 because first of all,
we could see one tomorrow night, maybe. Who knows? It could happen. Or we could see one. Actually, you know what's crazy though?
I'd rather not deal with another catch because that one is so stressful.
That would be I could actually see the catch 4 being in a Super Bowl, and it might not. It might not even be this year, but I could see it being The catch 3 being
What
a Super Bowl winning
yeah.
catch.
If it were in the Super Bowl, that would be the greatest one of them all because then it would be in the game that really mattered the most of all of them.
Right. Yeah,
It would
because
easily
and
top on
obviously the
catch one.
closest to that would be the 81-82 NFC Championship game, Montana to Clark.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate one.
You know, another great what if is but yeah, as I said earlier, I don't think Niners 98, even if they got past Atlanta and Green Bay, I don't think they would have beaten Minnesota.
Yeah,
Because
I gotta admit, your knowledge of that 98 season is better than mine. I couldn't tell you who was that Vikings
are you
quarterback.
remember
Educate me.
Brandon Cunningham?
Educate me about that 98 Vikings team, please.
Oh man, if you know history, this is what I'll tell you. They were one of the scariest teams in the National Football League, both offensively and defensively. You have to deal with Randall Cunningham, who is a veteran quarterback. He wasn't a good runner anymore, but he was an excellent drop back pocket passer quarterback in 98. And then he had two amazing wide receivers, Chris Carter and the second greatest wide receiver of all time, Randy Moss, who was in his rookie year. Arguably the greatest rookie season of any football player of all time.
Okay, yeah, I did not realize that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Randy Moss, of course, started his career with the Vikings and then had
and
one
their
of the
record
best...
that year, 15-1. 15-1.
I was really happy to have Randy Moss on that 2012-13 team, by the way.
I think he was a good mentor, good leadership for the team, but he wasn't obviously going to do too much. But
right,
I feel like Randy would have done more.
Some good moments that year. He didn't start getting cocky until the Super Bowl when he started saying he was better than Jerry Rice. That's the part where it got to be. Yeah, that's where it kind of looked like it turned. Especially when I did absolutely nothing in the Super Bowl. But regardless, I was still happy to have Randy Moss on that team in general.
It was an honor. I mean, you can now say you had the three greatest wide receivers of all time to play for your team at least once: Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and then Randy Moss.
Hey, bandwagoner, 2011. I was playing Madden 24. I was playing against the Seahawks. I created my own player. I threw a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey.
Wow, CMC.
You created your own player as yourself and made yourself the next quarterback.
And I put him in the game, and I made him quarterback.
Nice. There you go.
and I
don't honestly think there was a need because Brock Purdy is all you need.
No, and I made him number 12.
Oh, come on. Oh, like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, yeah, by the way, do you know that number 12 is actually retired on the Niners? No one can wear number 12 anymore. Nobody can wear 12. It's completely off limits because number 12 got retired.
I can't remember who 12 would have.
No, I just made him number 12 in the game, but I know he's
right. No, we know, but we're trying to think whether because I did not know that in real life. Apparently, number 12.
Here it is. His name was John Brody. He played for the Niners between 1957 and 1973.
Actually, one of my friends who isn't even a Niner fan was actually named after John Brody. His name being Brody, actually. Even though he's not exactly, he just because his dad thought it was a cool name because of he kind of wanted to name him a quarterback name and the A-bomb who was in my chat earlier would remembers John Brody actually.
He's like A-bomb's like one of the old school OG 49er fans who saw everything from the very start. I mean, literally, Brody didn't really do too much for the football team until like very much later in his career when they went up against the Cowgirls in the NFC Championship game. They lost that one, unfortunately, at Kezar.
The Niners lost a lot of playoff matchups to the Cowboys before the catch, actually. It wasn't like 4 or 5 times before that.
And, the thing is, what's funny is that all of our playoff menaces in the 1990s, ever since that time period, have now struggled against the 49ers in the playoffs. Dallas has been struggling. Green Bay has been struggling. I mean, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but
bandwagoner, 2011. There's a 49ers museum inside Levi's Stadium. They hold all the statues of all the players. Which player do you think they should put in the museum?
What are you talking about? Like,
no, which other which like if there was another player that you'd want to see in there, who would you want to see in there? If like they would erect another.
Here's what is Frank Gore in there actually? Because I've almost checked it out. I didn't get a chance when I was in the Bay Area last summer. I almost actually did check it out, but I didn't end up having time to because it is open on the weekends regardless.
No, you mean you checked out the museum?
Yeah, I wanted to check it out. I know exactly where it is at Levi's. I've been. Before a game I went to when I went to the Bay Area last season, I almost went to that, but I didn't get a chance to. Is Frank Gore in that museum? Hold on, I think I may have caught it. SG, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think he's cut out because I was gonna say if Frank Gore isn't in that museum, I would put him in that museum.
I'd put Frank Gore there. I would put in honestly. I mean, I feel like it's a little too early, too early yet to put in any new guys in there.
Right, but Frank Gore is a
early
player you could put in there.
I mean, I would put George. I
mean,
I think George Kittle's already Hall of Fame caliber player, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, and the fact that I think George Kittle's had has been since 2019.
I felt like him losing Jimmy was the greatest thing to happen in his career because have you seen his numbers since he lost Jimmy? He's been playing so much better without him.
Yeah, and he's playing. So of course George Kittle going to the University of or being an Iowa Hawkeye, playing against an Iowa State
Danny,
Cyclone. You got the I call it the Iowa State connection.
Danny, I just checked. Frank Gore isn't in the museum.
Is it okay? Then he would be my pick for who should be added to that. That's not already there.
Yeah, I agree. Frank Gore. Frank Gore's an awesome player.
Steve Young is in the museum. Joe Montana's in the museum. Terrell Owens is in the museum.
Yeah, obviously Jerry Rice and Ronnie Lott.
Obviously, and Dwight, they're all there.
Right.
But they need to put Frank Gore in there. But anyway, I honestly think though, as for let's see here. I mean, yeah, George Kittle, I think is you know why I think he's the better tight end right now, George Kittle, better than Travis Kelce. I'm gonna make a joke here. It may be a bad joke, but I don't care. It's because he doesn't have Taylor Swift as his girlfriend.
hey, by the way, did you hear that the jacket that Taylor Swift was wearing it was literally forged. Kyle Juszczyk's wife. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, it was literally made by the wife of Kyle Juszczyk. That's incredible. I didn't know she was that talented at crafting such stuff. Like, how much that cost?
What are your guys' thoughts of Usher, who's going to be performing the Super Bowl halftime show?
That's a safe choice, though. I wish we went back to
classic
rock and roll.
Throwback.
Honestly,
no, that's a good movie. I used to listen. I haven't listened to Usher in a while, but I used to listen to a lot of his songs.
I do wish we had more rock, honestly, at the Super Bowl halftime. That would be the kind of music to get everybody pumped up. But it's a safe choice. Going with Usher is okay, but it's not going to be. It's not the greatest choice, though. Remember when everyone's been demanding for Metallica to be Super Bowl halftime show?
Actually, I saw Metallica play at the Cardinals Stadium a few months ago. Actually,
that's how ironic because Arizona, that stadium was actually just the recent host of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's a shame that
I went to the NFL Experience a couple times last year. I'm going to be in Vegas not for the Super Bowl itself, but I'm going to be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and going back on Thursday, the week of the Super Bowl. I'm going to be in Vegas.
Is the Pro Bowl going to be back in Vegas too?
Is it
Danny? What is
yeah, I would assume it would be. By the way, hot take. I've never really watched the Pro Bowl, except when I was younger. I would watch it in Hawaii. But I like the form. I think I like the format better of the Pro Bowl, where it's just flag football rather than them wearing pads but not really trying. Yeah. I kind of think that's cool to have them playing flag football. To be honest, I think that's
Danny.
What
is the Super Bowl? What is the Super Bowl experience?
It's really cool. It's a cool thing. My favorite one of all time was in February of 2008 when it just turned 11. The Giants Patriots Super Bowl 42, one of the best Super Bowls of all time, was the first one in my lifetime in Arizona. Only the second one in general in Arizona. And I had moved to Arizona in 2004, and I went to that one. That one was the coolest one. That one was actually at the Glendale Stadium. These past, because 2015 the Super Bowl was here too, and last year they were both that time at the Phoenix Convention Center, so it was a little bit different. But they was still really cool. You had a lot of cool things. They showed they showed the players' locker rooms, like all the stuff they would have for it up. They had all the historic stuff there and everything. But I thought the best one was in 2008 because you could even back then there was a thing of where you could call. They would show show the video of it, and then you would be the one calling it. You'd be you'd be doing the play-by-play of it. They would have a version of you doing it. Like, that was the coolest thing of it. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like in Vegas. So that
I just want to say that Eli Manning is a hero, even though he beat the Niners in the playoffs in the NFC Championship game. But still, what he did for the league was great when he beat the Patriots twice. He's a fucking hero.
A bandwagoner 2011. The Super Bowl 2022 halftime show was the dopest ever because it had 4. It had Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre. 4.
Talking about Super Bowl 56. Yeah, that was that was actually a pretty good Super Bowl. It's only a shame Niners weren't there, but I thought the Rams did well enough to make it entertaining. And besides, it was probably the most LA thing ever, that Super Bowl. You had the LA team there, then you had the LA celebrities there. You had the LA musicians as the halftime performance. I mean, if you were somebody living in LA, that had to be awesome. That had to be an amazing experience. And besides, Super Bowl 60, I think, is coming back to the Bay. We're going to host Super Bowl again.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, exactly 10 years after Super Bowl 50. So that's kind of cool how you have Super Bowl 50 and then Super Bowl 60 there.
I'm a big fan of the song Eminem, Lose Yourself.
Yeah, me too. I am too.
I'm going to be so old by the time we host the Olympic Games in 2028, especially.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, because the Olympics are coming to the United States. I think it's specifically LA, I think.
Yeah.
But that's close enough.
No, it'd be cool if it was if they had it beaten the whole state of California at that point. Wouldn't that be cool? Could you imagine you have some events in San Diego, some events in the Bay Area, some events in Sacramento? Like, whew.
They're gonna hold most of the events in LA for sure. And but yeah, I feel
like all of them probably will be the LA area. I'm just thinking that would be really cool if they had to be a whole state of California thing.
I mean, but if you're a Barrie resident and considering how like once in a lifetime seeing an Olympic Games is, I would recommend Barrie residents to go down either Interstate 5 or take an airplane or the train. Go down to LA. Like this would be the time to do it.
I might even, if I'm still living in Phoenix by then, I might even make the trip to there then, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go cheer on Team USA, be patriotic and such, and just hopefully the world doesn't end by then. But seriously though, but yeah, getting back on, but just looking overall at the overall playoff picture, like the remaining teams that are still in this playoff race, the way I see it, the AFC is a much more competitive conference compared to the AFC. The NFC looks like a cupcake conference, honestly. Bunch of weak teams. I mean, I feel confident, though not super confident. The 49ers are going to go to Super Bowl 58. That's how I feel about it. As for the AFC,
this is their best chance to win a Super Bowl
since 2019. Since 2019.
Since 20, but even better than 2019 because in 2019, and I love Jimmy, but Jimmy G was not a proven quarterback then.
No,
and
Jimmy
honestly,
G. Look,
playoffs, I would have tried to argue that he was, and other people would have, but then so the fan base was kind of split in that. You had some people thinking that he was already it, and then other people thinking that no, he's okay, but he's not exactly. He might not have what it takes, and. And if he would have played that road to Emmanuel Sanders in that Super Bowl, then everything would have changed. But
Ben Wagner 2011. Who do you think is going to be the X factor for the 49ers if they win over Green Bay?
I mean, it's going to be honestly Christian McCaffrey. Honestly, it has to be CMC. It's all going to be about running the football. It has to.
And like I said earlier, CMC having the rest that he's had, that's going to be crucial. I mean, that's going to be a big key component is the fact that CMC is going to be so fresh. And because I thought that Kyle overused him a little bit. There were times when he just kept handing the ball off to him. And when you had Jordan Mason and Mitchell, Mitchell wasn't healthy for the whole year. But when you had, especially Jordan Mason, I thought should have been the one getting a lot of the carries when the Niners already had. Maybe they weren't completely blowing out the other team, but at least they had a decent margin of where he didn't have to overrun CMC so much. But the fact that CMC is going to be completely rested and healthy means that he can he could score 5 rushing touchdowns tomorrow. I mean, I'm that's not my score prediction, but it could happen. Like
he'll score at least 2, honestly, for all I know.
Because
they have to be very
Mostert
cautious
scored
with Brock
4 years ago in the NFC Championship. This is just the divisional round. I could see CMC at least having 4 too.
I think he's gonna. I mean, if 49ers go on a deep run, I think McCaffrey is going to be the most important piece here, just like it was last year. He had a good playoff run last season. It's just a shame they couldn't finish it off because of Brock Purdy's injury. Yeah. And that's another thing I want to point out is that in the event Brock gets injured, the fortunate thing is that they already have a backup quarterback who I think is good enough to take his place, and that would be Darnold. Because I don't think Darnold is as bad as Josh Johnson is.
Yeah, no, Darnold definitely looked pretty decent for having to just come in for that Week 18 game against the Rams, and then when he went in on that Christmas game as well, Sam Darnold definitely looked pretty decent and looked like if somehow, God forbid, anything were to happen to Purdy, then Kyle Shanahan's great offense could rely on McCaffrey and Darnold just completing some passes to, I'll just say go to the Super Bowl, because it'd be hard to imagine them winning a Super Bowl without Purdy. But
I mean, once they lost Purdy, that game was already over. But I think it would have been closer maybe had he not been injured, but we'll never know.
Josh Johnson being a 14-year veteran, I was pretty disappointed that he didn't at least look more prepared for that, because he looked visually scared against that.
He was cooked. He was cooked. Well done. It was over. It was over.
Yeah, and then of course couldn't throw more than 5 yards, and he said
you could just call me bandwagon. It's fine, man. Just call me bandwagon.
Hey, bandwagon. Who do you think is going to score the first touchdown for the San Francisco 49ers against the Green Bay Packers?
CMC. They're running it in, man. As I said, they're always going to run it. If they're that close to the goal line, you might as well just punch it in with CMC. Or maybe you could do a little tush push with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I'm going to say CMC scores first too. I predict Brandon Ayuk to have a touchdown reception in tomorrow's game.
If the 49ers were to sweep the entire NFC in the playoffs in both divisional and conference, it would prove me right that this conference this year has been very weak. And you know what? That's why this is the best chance for the Niners to win it all. The NFC is weak. There's nobody like literally in their class to compete with them. I mean, this is their chance. This is their best chance to win it. I literally no excuses for them not to win tomorrow's game and to win the NFC Championship game.
I'm also going with CMC to score the first touchdown of the game.
Yeah. All right, so Danny, do you got anything else you want to share, or we good for tonight?
Yeah, I'll probably end the stream in a little bit. I was gonna have everyone give their score predictions, but before that, I was gonna touch on the Warriors' assistant coach.
Oh my God!
Passing.
That sucks. You know, of all the
before I butcher him, Dejan Mendojlovic is kind of a hard name to pronounce. He's
Serb. Yeah, he's Serbian.
Yeah, Serbian. Yeah, he was actually a top player in the Serbian league when he played.
Dejan Milojevic. Yeah, Milojevic. Yeah. It's a real shame because it seemed like the players really liked him. He seemed like he was very popular with the guys, and the fact he just abruptly drops dead. It's just, I mean, this Warrior season is already cooked enough, but man.
Well, not only that, it was during an actual team dinner when he had the heart attack. So that's, I think the most tragic about it is because it's going to traumatize a lot of the.
So as a Warriors fan, when I heard about the passing of Dejan Milojevic, it was definitely heartbreaking because he was only 46 and he died due to a heart attack, and he was super young. Like he was so young. Like he was
too young.
He was just like, it was kind of unbelievable, right? Like how young he was.
Well, the thing is, you never know when it's your time to go. But when it's your time to go, that's it. Nothing you can do. It's beyond your control at that point. And it's just a huge shame that he went out so early. And it's during a time when the team probably would need him the most. And that is during this year. I mean, this season has just been an absolute tragedy for the Golden State Warriors because not only are you seeing the end of the dynasty for good, but you're also seeing someone literally passing away during that season too. It's just, This is just absolute travesty.
If the Golden State Warriors would end up trading Wiggins and Kuminga, where would they trade? Where would both of those players go?
Who knows,
if
man?
They ended up
I
letting
don't
them
know.
go.
Yeah, I don't. Wiggins, I could see them trade Kuminga. I really hope they don't trade, but that's always had the point. But with the passing of Mandela, it makes you put in perspective.
I can't hear you, Danny.
Hold on.
There, I can hear you again.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I'm having issues. I'm gonna have to fix for the next stream. But yeah, with the passing of him, it just goes to show how appreciative you should be of how much success the Warriors have had in the past decade. Because I remember this Warriors team being the worst, the absolute joke of a franchise in all of sports.
I just want to say that as a guy who's grown up for 24 years, I am so grateful to have seen two dynasties in the Bay Area, the Giants and the Warriors. But the Warriors one is obviously the most important for me because I watched this dynasty with my granddad who passed away in June 2023. And fortunately, he saw all four before he went. It's just, the thing is, you never know when it's going to be the end. You have to enjoy things while they last because, as I said, when it's your time to go, that's it. It's out of your control. And as Charles Barkley once said, everybody gets old and it's going to suck. Yeah. And when someone's cooked, they're cooked.
Yeah, when 46 is just too young. But that's awesome that you were able to experience the last Warriors championship.
And I was really surprised that it was at a team dinner.
I mean, the thing is, for all we know, because here's the thing, taller people tend to have more health issues than smaller people. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely something wrong there. Maybe it could be inheriting bad genetics or something, but thing is that we don't know. But what we do know is we lost a good man who the players loved, and obviously he's left behind a family who's definitely devastated by this loss. And
so
Dejan
Milosevic, he coached Nikola Jokic, and he's also a Serbian as well. So he knew him personally. So he was like he and him are great friends. So that shows how fellow Serbians are very traumatized by the death.
I mean,
of
they lost a brother. When you lose a brother like this, it's devastating. Everyone's gonna feel the loss, no matter how far or like close they are. You lose a brother. It's very difficult to overcome, and especially the man was young too. And this was someone a lot of people knew too. So it's definitely something that's gonna hit you for a while. But like everything, though, what I think Milosevic would want these guys to do is he would say, "Hey guys, don't worry about me. I'm in a better place now. Go play basketball like I did." I mean, it's sort of the same thing with Kobe when he died.
Oh, that was absolutely devastating for the whole planet. Yeah, that was. Oof.
When Kobe, the thing is, Kobe, I knew for a certainty, even though he was dead, I was like, what he definitely would have wanted everyone to do is play basketball. Right. Just play ball. And who would have thought that? It was like a script, honestly.
I rooted for the Lakers to win the finals that year because of him. I normally wouldn't root for them to win the finals.
Yeah, I was okay with them winning that time. I was like, okay, I don't like you guys, but you get a pass from me because you just lost one of your greatest of all time. And also, I mean, it's Kobe, man. Kobe has done so much for the game like Michael Jordan did. I'll let you have this one out of respect.
Right.
And they did win it, though it was against a team that I wouldn't mind winning either, and that was Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. But seriously,
they had Iguodala at that time too.
Iguodala's like that guy. He's just everywhere he goes. He's like that recurring character. Honestly, he's that recurring character.
Yeah, one thing I would say when my mic went out is I heard Jokic actually didn't he give a tribute to Mandzukic after in his press conference or something after one of his games? I
don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I might be wrong.
Danny,
I actually heard
they postponed the game against the Utah Jazz, but I never knew they would postpone the second game against the Mavericks.
I kind of had a feeling they would, yeah, especially because the Warriors had 4 days off after, so it gave them enough time.
What made you have a feeling about that they would postpone the second game?
Just because of how close the fact that the players were at the event. If it didn't happen at a team event, that also definitely had a lot to do with
it's
it.
literally the death of an important member of the staff, of the coaching staff. This is literally like a family losing a loved one.
And now the Warriors have 6 days until they play their next team, which is Atlanta.
Yeah, right, and that'll be just perfect enough time for them to
mourn.
It's a good time.
Yeah,
I think
for
6
them
days
to mourn
is a good
and kind of just get back on track.
Because it helps you ponder, because this is a very tragic event. So I think 6 days is in a good enough time for the Warriors to regroup and to get ready for the game against Atlanta, game against the Hawks.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect time to mourn and be able to just get back on track to kind of clear your mind with all the group. Because even if it wasn't a team event, it's an important member of the coaching staff. So it's not something that you can just easily go and play another game. Like the Lakers.
For me,
when the Lakers postponed their games after Kobe died in 2020. I think that was the first time in a while that you saw a team postpone games, but it just goes to show obviously there's more to life than sports or even your job. If in any job, if you have a family member close to you, then you might take some time off work. That's
Danny. Remember when Jose Fernandez died? He was like the Marlins pitcher. He was considered to be their next potential superstar, but then he got in that nasty boating accident.
Yeah, I kind of doing that. You mentioned that.
He got a little too high on cocaine with his buddies, and then they crashed their boat and they died.
Hey,
that
Danny,
shit was awful.
For me, I was not I didn't personally know Milosevic as a person, but once he passes away, it was definitely a shocker, because I bet many people weren't expecting that.
Especially at 46 years of age, all that.
Nobody did.
Yeah,
I was surprised. I was like, holy crap.
But it just goes to show how appreciative no matter how bad those Warriors. I mean, obviously, regardless of even if the Warriors had ever won a championship at all, you got to be more appreciative to the things that matter. But just how blessed are the Warriors to have that kind of a dynasty within a decade, within less than not even it hasn't even been a full decade yet since the Warriors first.
And the fact that they were able to have such high quality coaching as well, and Milosevic was obviously one of them.
So did John Milosevic help the Warriors win a 2022 NBA title when they played Boston?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was.
So he was a key member of the coaching staff.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna actually end this stream now. We've been on for a couple hours, but would like to thank SG Sports Talk, and of course the Bandwagoner 2011, formerly known as 49er Wildcat, for joining me on this stream. Thanks to A-Bomb and keeping the faith, and Shafiki also popped up on these chats. But
hey, Danny Golding,
everyone has a good night, and go Niners! Let's get this win tomorrow. Let's win our first ring.
Hey, Danny Golding, it was great.
I'll let you have the final word, SG. What's up?
It was great coming on your YouTube channel. If you're having another live stream in the future, I would love to hop on. I love talking 49er football with you, man. It's an honor, and thanks for having me on.
Yep, thank you so much. I will schedule my streams in advance, so when I go live, you will see it if you are subscribed to me. Please give. For those watching, please subscribe to Danny Golding TV as well. If you have not,
like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, SG Sports Talk channel.
Yes, I will. I will do that because YouTube made it easier back in. Just click on someone else's channel when you see it in the chat, but it's not that easy to do that now. So I will do that when I get off the stream. Thank you so much.
And make sure to smash that notification bell. So
smash that notification bell, smash that like all that. Yep.
The next time I go, post another live video.